Time's up, I done touchdown. I'm high stepping for the touchdown. I stay repping for the slums where the young bucks started loaded up just to bust rounds. I'm steady having
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the AFC South Fan Battle Podcast, brought to you by the Brawl Network. My name is Samantha Wernet. We are in the thick of free agency, at the end of it, nearing the end of it. The grades are coming out. People are going places that are shocking, I guess. I don't know. This has been a very weird year with the caps being lowered, and we shall see. After 2020, nothing is surprising, right? Our commentators for this evening, representing the Titans, we have Ray Cherry.
I'll hail the king.
Representing the Texans, we have Matthew Briggs.
I'm here so I don't get fined.
Representing the Colts, we have Harish Nookala.
Look, hey guys, it's all about one thing. Hashtag bring TY home, baby. Hashtag bring TY home.
And representing the Jaguars, we have Matthew Grieve.
Tyson Wally was back. And hopefully the Jags are.
Again.
That's a good one. I like that one. And our special guest for this evening, from ESPN's NFL Nation, Titans reporter Turron Davenport. How are you, Turron?
I'm awesome. I'm excited to be on the AFC South Fan Battle podcast. It's exciting, man. I look forward to talking shop with you.
Yeah, a lot of people come on here and they don't know how to handle this environment because normally they're on podcasts for their teams and they come on here.
He said to bring the fire. He said bring the heat. Bring
I'm a Wu-Tang fan. Bring the ruckus. I'm not listening about before ruckus, because we're going to keep this PG.
Dre, you can't only dish it, bro. You got to be able to take it.
So that's one thing I'll say before we start. We are going to address the elephant in the AFC South room, which is, as everybody knows, is Deshaun Watson. This is a subject we are most definitely going to touch on this episode. But since we have Turron joining us, we are going to go over the Titans, and we'll bring you more on the Deshaun Watson allegations during the Texans segment. So make sure you stay tuned. Anyways, free agency. I'll let you guys mention some notable signings, but I just wanted to give some grades out because I feel like the AFC South gets a lot of flack, Like everybody always hates on us. Anyways, CBS did a free agency grade. And the Texans got a C. Colts got a B-. Jaguars a C, and the Titans a C+.
I
don't know.
Addition by subtraction, that's why.
Pro Football Focus, they didn't go by grades. They just went by average and all that. Texans were below average. Colts average. Jaguars average. And Titans below average. So... I don't know. It's looking like Titans or Jaguars and Colts were the only one that people could agree on. Titans got, a C+ and then a below average. Texans, they were pretty much below average on both. So I don't know.
I think a lot of that is associated with how much went out the building as far as the offense is concerned. This is a team that was fourth in the league last year, averaging darn near 30 points. I think it was like 28.4. So when you see a Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis taken away, of course, you're going to look at that and say, hey, wait a minute, that's not good. But I think what you have to look at is what was added defensively. And just in talking to Bud Dupree and talking and having previously known Jack Rabbit Jenkins, I think those two moves are really good. But the move that I think will also help set that over the edge was the Negro Autry. And we have a Colts reporter, a Colts fan on here, so I'm sure he could attest to what Autry brings. So I look at all of that together, and I think the defense got better, and they revamped the secondary that they were clearly not happy with. I think it was 28 touchdowns, I think was the number that they gave up passing last year, which was among the worst in the league. So clearly that needed to be changed, and they did that. So I think it kind of balances out. I don't know that I would give it below average. I think it's average at the least. But once you factor in the draft, I think that's going to make it a lot better.
I will mention a honorable mention was Arizona Cardinals, but they did hate on them for the J.J. Watt signing, saying that they signed him way too early before the cap came out, like the official cap. But I know that's Matt's new favorite team because of Hopkins and Watt, right?
Hey, they're beasting. They're getting loaded. They're gonna be looking good.
Might go from 7 to 8 wins, man. They're really counting it out there.
Well, since last week.
They had 8 wins last year, so I mean, add 2 more, 10 or 11.
Aside from the AFC South, any notable signings since last week? Who wants
The
to
Giants got two big signings in Galladay and Adoree Jackson. Monster contracts too.
Yeah, no. So that's interesting. The monster, Turron, can you really talk about like the numbers that we're seeing this year? Like Bud Dupree is kind of like an example of this, right? $17.5 million for an edge rusher. Are you like surprised that the numbers are so high, even with the cap going lower, or is this like a representation of knowing that the cap's going to go back up, especially seeing the new TV deal?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two. Knowing this new TV deal is in place, which ESPN, by the way, and ABC is going to have 2 Super Bowls in the coming years. So that's great for, the brand that I represent, ESPN. But I think really when you look at it, you got to look at like big picture of the deal. Yeah, it on the surface is 3 years, $39 million for Adoree Jackson. But let's be honest. We know that he's not going to see all $39 million. There will be a point where they're trying to figure out a way to get out of that and save X amount of dollars. I think Justin Coleman, the deal he signed with the Lions a couple years ago, is a good example. And it was a 4-year deal, but 2 years into it, guess what? He sliced and out of the picture, and he never saw a lot of the money. So there's funny money with these contracts, and that I think is why a lot of these NFL guys are looking to have money guaranteed, and I think that's really what you have to look at. So, yeah, it looks a lot bigger than it is, but I don't think it is.
And he can always work out reconstruction like, Tunsil did with the Texans this week, and, other people have done as well.
Yeah, I think reconstructions were kind of necessary this year because of everything. They touched on that last week as far as the way that they're getting around cap hits is doing the signing bonus ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And what was it as far as I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but basically where you're not guaranteed to play, like they could drop. What was that called?
Voided years. Voided
years. Yes.
Voided years. Yeah.
I don't know how I like that. Everything with like cap and all that like goes beyond my scope. There's so much math. I can't even do it. I'm like,
see, this is why I like Chris Ballard. We don't have to restructure because we save up front, so we know what to do already. There's no need to restructure. We didn't have to restructure anyone.
I feel like we're three.
Turron, if you ever meet Ballard, you need to tell him that you met his number 1 fan today. Okay,
I'm seeing that. I'd say one thing. You mentioned Chris Ballard. The thing I always think about is being in the press box. Something that happened, and I'll hear this. That dude pounds the table so many times when something bad happens. And you turn and look at him, and he's beat red. It's hilarious, man. It's entertaining.
I was just about to say right before you said that.
Sense of humanity.
I was just about to say right before you said that. I feel like this is our 3rd official episode, and you've talked about him every episode. You might as well just ask him on a date. Just tweet him.
I probably will if he would. He doesn't have Twitter, and he loves his Twitter fans, but he doesn't even have a Twitter account.
You should make him one.
He says it every time. Yeah, Chris Ballard's number 1 fan. I should.
Just make it like the real Chris Ballard and just tweet as if you're him. Do it.
I totally could.
You should.
Today,
you love him enough.
It can't be hard. It can't be hard. Today, we sat on the ship and we sailed. We sailed for miles. There was many different, pirates we could have picked up to help us land at the big one, and we just kept sailing. Yeah, see, I would be bad at that. I can't do stuff like that.
Feedback from the group before we move into the Titans segment. Somebody said, how do you grade before they even take the field? Which I agree. I always like to read the gradings, but you can't ever take them seriously. Somebody says, Matt, have you been working out? You're looking really fit. It's a compliment. Which Matt? We don't know. Probably Briggsy, because you're on here all the time. And then someone said, Sam should ask Ramsey out on a date. She still lives rent-free. Wait, he still lives rent-free in her mind. I don't know. Who's that? Who's Ramsey?
That's Chris Jackson.
No, who's Ramsey? I've never heard of her.
See, that's the first sign to love is you deny it.
Yeah.
Love denial.
Yeah,
Anyways.
love denial. It's a new thing.
I love love denial. Well,
Master Deshaun Watson.
No, that's called booty denial. There's a big difference. Big difference. Okay. No, anyway,
we don't know yet. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, so moving on to the Titans segment, Turron, because I know we only have you for a little bit of time. One thing I did read in free agency, and then I'll let you and Ray kind of chat back and forth about the Titans, is they were discussing Clowney, which, first question, were you happy with that signing to begin with?
I think at the time it was a good move. It obviously didn't work out due to injuries. I think a lot of what went into that was a level of expectation that I don't think was the right level. You can't expect him to come in and get 10 to 15 sacks. It's just not what Clowney is. And that's not what they signed. Really what was supposed to happen, and it actually did happen when you talk about Jeffrey Simmons, was a guy being able to help other players, like impact other players to play better. And that's what you saw. And that's why Simmons was so effective that first bit of the season and wasn't as effective. He's still a heck of a player, but he wasn't as dominant as he was beginning with Clowney in the lineup. So I think it was a good move, and it was one that they felt like they had to do something, right? Because the Victor Beasley signing obviously was not a good one. And I know that there wasn't a unified front within that building as far as signing him. So they had to back it up with something else, and they thought that was the deal that would do it.
Yeah, and sometimes when players come from other schemes, you just don't know how it's going to work out. But they did say at this point that he is the best value for edge. So I don't know. Did the Titans re-sign him? Do they let him go? If he's the best value, you guys are working with like very little. Do you guys even have cap space at this point?
They do have some cap space. They could sign him. I don't know about the best value. I think Justin Houston, I believe he's still available. I think he brings a lot of value as well. 1-year deal. Get him in there. And that's, something I asked Bud Dupree when we had him on the Zoom call, the intro press conference, was how will you help establish a pass rushing culture, which is what that organization needs. And I think getting a guy like Justin Houston, an experienced pass rusher, a guy that Harold Landry could kind of learn from and just see, okay, this is the right way to go about your attack as far as blitzing the quarterback and those type of things. I think that's a value. True.
Well, I'll let you and Cherry dive into it. Cherry, I know you have a couple of questions for Turron, and then we'll let you guys go back and forth about the Jaguars. The Jaguars' daddy, Titans. Go ahead.
So just piggybacking on Bud Dupree, he's coming off the ACL injury. How productive do you think he'll be right off the bat? And do you still think we are missing another piece up front?
Yeah, I think, you have to look at that like over time. As you mentioned, the ACL injury, Bud Dupree's a very powerful pass rusher. He's a very sudden pass rusher. He does a good job when it's time to corner. He can plant on that knee and turn and go after the quarterback. He does a really good job of setting the edge. There's a lot of times where you see him drive off of that knee and just use the power that he has, not only with his hands, but just coming from his lower body. Because if you look at him, his lower body is very well put together and it's powerful. So he has to get to a point to where he's comfortable doing those things that he's going to be required to do as far as sticking that foot in the ground and having that confidence and not concerned about being injured. That, I think, is bigger than actually recovering from the injury itself physically. So I don't think that he's going to hit the ground running as far as having a bunch of sacks right off the bat. But I think Titans fans need to be patient with him and understand that move is more for the long haul. And there will be a point where he does hit that groove and he becomes that pass rusher, that impact pass rusher that defense needs.
Well, like you said earlier with Clowney helping Simmons, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I did see Watt's production kind of take a hit when Dupree got hurt. So, I mean, he can help a lot with, Autry, the one they picked up, and with Simmons. I think that's going to be a big role for him to help with the pressure.
No doubt, and that's a great point because, when you see a guy like Autry come in and you watch him, what the Colts were able to do, they were able to run stunts and do those type of things. And when you see what Bud Dupree was able to do in tandem with some of those, interior guys on the Steelers, it obviously worked really well and it was productive. So I could definitely see them bringing that into this situation with the Titans and making that work. So absolutely, that's a great point. And then to your point about the Steelers, their blitz percentage went down. Their effective pass rush percentage went down when Dupree got hurt. And remember, they were 11-0 before he got hurt, 1-5 after. I don't think it's a coincidence.
The interesting thing about Autry, and I think Autry was great. I thought, we got the most out of Autry that we could have gotten, right? Ballard signed him for $2 million 3 years ago. And I think we got as much as we could out of him. Very, very productive for us. The one thing about Autry that concerned me was he needs those other pieces, and I think that's why they went and got Bud Dupree and combined him, with Justin Simmons. If DeForest Buckner went down or if Justin Houston wasn't there, I just don't think Autry picked up the slack. So he's definitely one of those piece guys and not a focal point, if you will.
And he was paid like one.
Right. So I think he's going to be very productive there, but it does count. It does depend on Bud Dupree's ability to stay healthy and do some of the things that you were talking about. Because Absolutely. Without Bud Dupree being there, I don't think Autry is going to be as impactful as Titans fans think he will be.
Going on the defense, okay. But as Titans fan, who was our defensive coordinator last year? There was always this give and take. All right. Rabel would always say it wasn't the scheme, kind of throwing it on the players, right? Now this offseason, you kind of see that we're revamping pretty much our whole defense. So it feels like, to me, that J-Rob is giving Vrabel exactly what he wants, or trying to at least. So do you think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Vrabel this upcoming this year with the defense, if the defense does not produce?
I think it's going to be pressure on everyone, honestly. And that's even going to Autry, going to Dupree, going to Jenkins, going to Kevin Byard, Howard Landry, Jeffrey Simmons, Jayon Brown. We could go through and name everyone. But I will say this. I don't think that Mike Vrabel did throw it on the players, because anytime that I asked him about it, he would always say, we need to coach better. We need to play better. And to be honest, it sounds cliche, and it's something that even on the receiving end of that, I'm like, bro, you got to get better. But it's the truth. There were times where it was scheme. There are other times where it was guys just not executing. When was the scheme? It's 3rd and 7, and you're lining up 11 yards off the ball. You can't do that, right? Because receivers get a free release. There's no chatter at the line of scrimmage. The quarterback is able to get into his drop. If he's looking over here and doesn't see so-and-so having a battle at the line of scrimmage, he's relaxed. He knows that option is there. If he goes through his reads, if he goes back to it, it's there. He knows it. That's a scheme issue. But if he puts together the perfect pass rush, and I mean, we talked about Clowney earlier, there were times that Clowney had the quarterback dead to rights. It seemed like a good pass rush, but if that is put together and the quarterback's dead to rights and Clowney or whoever the defender is doesn't make the play, is that on the defender or is that on the coach? And I think those are things that we have to look at. To me, it was a blend of both things. And I think you have to mix in the GM, John Robinson, as well, because a lot of times when they were playing off coverage, it was because they just simply didn't trust the guys that were out there, right? And if you're playing off coverage and you don't trust the guy to be man on man, to press him at the line of scrimmage, and you know what? That's a personnel issue. And you know where personnel issues fall on the GM, the guy who puts the guys on the field.
I agree. I definitely agree with
But
Speaking of-
hold on real quick. To go off your quote, man, that sounded like Vrabel's ex mentor. Sounded like Bill O'Brien talk right there, man. That real Bill O'Brien is right there.
Yeah. It's frustrating to hear. Even like, I don't have a horse in the race, right? Like, my check's cash regardless of whether the Titans win or lose. But it's just like, dang, man, you got to do better than that.
Yeah. So speaking on the offensive side of the ball, we just signed a 1-year deal with Josh Reynolds. I think it's a solid pickup.
Yeah.
I don't think he fills all the holes of wide receiver, obviously. I think he's a good number 3. I don't think he's a 2, maybe 2. So how would you rate that signing? How do you think he fits in the offensive scheme?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good signing. I remember Josh Reynolds coming out of Texas A&M and even seeing him down there at the Senior Bowl up front and personal. I tagged him as an ex-receiver, and I say he was a guy that I really liked at that position. He reminds me a lot of Brandon Lloyd, and Brandon Lloyd is kind of a throwback reference, but he was a guy that was never really playing. It's only like 4, 5, 6, somewhere along there, but was able to consistently get vertical because of just his ability to stack cornerbacks. And then more importantly, how he would go up, play above the rim. Guy snaps the ball out of the air, you know, at the highest point. And if you go back and watch a lot of the games from last year, it's no coincidence that Jared Goff got traded. There were a lot of passes where he's turning and he's doing all of this stuff to make the catch. So I think that huge catch radius he has is a benefit. And then when you have a guy that has the accuracy of Ryan, say what you want about Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is a very accurate quarterback, and he's good at putting the ball where the receiver can catch it and make plays after it. So I think it's a good move. Now, I did get into a little on Twitter. I was talking with one of the guys on there about whether or not he's a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. I think in this offense, he could very well be a wide receiver 2. Here's why. You look at a lot of the coverage and a lot of the ways teams are starting to play the Titans, you see more things rolling towards A.J. Brown. So on the opposite side of that, all you need is a receiver. He could be a number 2 as long as he could beat one-on-one coverage. And I think Josh Reynolds is capable of beating one-on-one coverage. Now, that being said, should they stand pat at receiver and not do anything else? Heck no. I really feel like as if, you know, the Sammy Watkins news is interesting, that there's interest. I don't know how that will work because Watkins, after he left, has some, you know, damning words on Rob Moore, who's the receiver coach. So, okay, if they do make that move, are they going to get over that and work towards, you know, being able to be productive together? I don't know. I think so because they're both grown. I would think they could handle their differences. But I do think in the draft at 22, Rashad Bateman, he's an outstanding X-receiver, but he could also you go back to his 2019 tape. I mean, he played on the outside with Tyler Johnson, what was on the inside, right? He didn't wear number 0. He wore 13. Johnson was number 6. A lot of times he was lined up outside, and Bateman was getting busy, right? And then you look at this past year, the limited games he played, he was able to do some things from the slot too. So I think he really fits. But then there are multiple guys. Bottom line is this. They absolutely have to draft 1 or 2 receivers this year. And, you know, Bateman, Cornell Powell, Josh Palmer, these are all guys. I mean, there's a lot of them. You know, Amari Rodgers at the slot, Rondale Moore, Elijah Moore, a guy I know a lot of people like that plays beyond his size. So there's an abundance of receivers that will be really good for that offense, and they're going to need to pluck at least 2 of them.
I think the interesting name you pulled there is Elijah Moore, a guy who's obviously speedy little guy, runs routes very, very well, very crisp with his routes, especially coming inside in the slot. That's a guy that I wouldn't want to see on the Titans, especially with Tannehill's ability to throw short. I think Elijah Moore is somebody that, out of all those receivers you named, is probably the one guy I'm like, please don't go to the Titans. That guy's very special. I think he's going to be very good in the NFL.
We do have
he is really good.
We do have a comment from the group for Turron. Where do you think the Titans will go with their first pick?
Yeah,
and
that's always.
Do the Titans trade out of that spot to fill more team needs?
That's an option too. Trading down. I think if they move down, they could still get a impact pass rusher. They could still get. I think Bateman may very well be around. In the late 20s. I think Elijah Moore will probably be around in the late 20s. I think guys like Azeez Ojulari may be around. There are options that they could do if they want to trade to the bottom part of that first round. But even if they get into the second round, now you can still get some corners too. Tyson Campbell out of Georgia, very good man coverage corner. And the Titans, they play man coverage 48% of the time. They do it a lot, but they didn't have the horses to do it last year. But they could add that this year. So I think absolutely they could trade down. As far as where they pick at 22, like that's what direction they go. That's always hard because you don't know what's on the board, right? It is the third rated receiver in Waddle. Is he on the board versus the fifth rated defensive end / outside linebacker? You don't know what's there. So it's tough to really say what direction that they should go.
Well, Turron, we thank you for coming on with us this evening and giving us all your info. We'd love to have you back for the draft.
Before you go, I got one question for you. I asked Stephen Holder, and he gave an answer. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but who is the biggest dick you ever met as a player?
That's a good.
Stephen Holder's answer was Kellen Winslow Jr. He said he was. Yeah.
I can see that. That's a good question. Let me think on that. He's actually a former Texan.
Oh, all right.
Whoa. It's J.J. Watt.
No. Brian Brayman. Do you remember him?
Yeah, I do. Linebacker, yeah. Yeah, linebacker Brian Brayman, yeah.
Brian Brayman.
I'll say, we didn't talk to him much in Philly when I covered the Eagles. But the thing that always irked me about him is his locker was all the way at the end of the locker room, right? And midway, you had to walk like halfway through the locker room to go into the shower. And he would go down, start at his locker, hold his towel in his hand, and just walk up to his locker naked. And I'd just be like, yo, my man, like I don't want to see him. You know what I'm saying? So I would say that one. But another guy who comes to mind, and it's crazy because like we're really cool at this point, is Steve Smith. And he's actually one of my favorite favorite receivers ever, but one of my favorite players I ever covered. And I remember when I was in Baltimore, I was talking to one of the younger receivers, and he walked by and he said, "Shut the F up." I don't know if he was talking to me or the other receiver, but I knew I was in the vicinity, so I was like, "Yo, who you talking to?" And he laughed. And ever since that point, we were really cool. So that's just a quick story for you on Steve. I love Steve.
That's cool. Hey, Turron, I know you got to go. One last thing. Obviously, I'm going to mention it because I just found out about it. Obviously, you wrote a book on Carson Wentz, starting with the Eagles. Carson Wentz is now a Colt. Wasn't my first option, by the way. I was huge on Sam Darnold coming to Indy, and I think Frank Reich could have done wonders with him. But talk a little bit about
turn the ball over a lot. So,
well, hey, Frank Reich has a history of making quarterback turnover heavy quarterbacks not do that. So wasn't never worried about that. Talk about a little bit what do you think Carson does in Indy, and how does that fit in your mind?
I think he does fit. You mentioned Frank Reich, but I think you also look at Press Taylor, the QB coach. What is he, pass game coordinator or something like that? Yep. His former QB coach in Philly. I think having those guys in place is really good for Carson Wentz, because for Wentz, to me, it's not really the ability. He has all of that is here. And I think this is a guy who was mentally broken, and he kind of said it at the opening press conference. He mentioned the Packers game. He was like, yeah, I think that's it. And there was just a lot going on with him, at least for the 2 years that I was there. as far as the extra effort to make sure that everything was right for him. And in that situation, now you have a guy who had his confidence kind of shaken a bit and, had him in a situation where he felt defeated. But now you have a team, an organization that went out to get him. And as you mentioned, Frank Reich is there, a guy who played quarterback in the league, a guy who was his coordinator when he was the most successful part of his career. So I think it was a good move. I'm not sure exactly how productive he's going to be. I think the Colts fans and the Colts themselves should have some concern about that left tackle position. And Carson is a guy that you don't want him playing hero ball all the time. There's a time and place for that. And that's his big issue, where he'll try to play hero and make a play that he has no business making. It results in an interception, and now the tide of the game has turned. But it's kind of like a gift and a curse, because there are times where he'll make that play, and you're just like, wow, that was an amazing play. And it turns the tide in the Colts' favor. So there's yin and yang with that. But I think it's a good match.
Turron, before you log off, can you tell us anywhere that we can find you, or your Twitter handle, any podcast you're on, anything like that?
Yeah, at @Davenport_NFL on Twitter. Go to ESPN.com, click NFL teams, and then Titans. You can find all of my posts. I have a post going up on Tuesday in regards to Bud Dupree and having hashtag that dog in him and being the lead dog for the Titans. So that's something I worked on more recently. The podcast is called Talking with TD. You can find it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts. What I'm doing now is kind of focusing on the draft, and you'll see this upcoming week I will have Azeez Ojulari as well as Amari Rogers on there, and Brandon Mack out of the Temple Owls. He's a receiver, so that's coming up this week. So you can check it out on there.
Awesome. Well, we thank you again for coming on and joining us. We'd love to have you back sometime. It's been a good time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Ray Terry, we got to get more combo next time. So definitely, I'm ready for it. So reach out.
All right,
yes,
thanks.
Bring Shirley's with you, Turron. He loves them.
I appreciate all of you.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. Welcome back. Now, moving on to the rebuilding kitty cats. Matthew Grieve with the Jaguars. Give us an update. What's been going on this week as far as the Jaguars signings? I do want to mention somebody just sent me during that Titans segment. I thought it was quite funny. Big Cat Country came out with a list of 31 teams in the NFL draft that won't be drafting Trevor Lawrence. So I thought that was great. Little pun.
That's supposed to be funny.
It's actually hilarious. I loved it. Thought it was great.
No,
shout out to Big Cat Country. All right, Matt, go ahead.
Not a whole lot going on with the Jaguars, which is an interesting situation with how much cap space we had. But I'll start off with the bad news. We didn't sign any tight ends. Correction, we did sign a tight end. Let me see. His name is Chris Manhertz. He has a total of, I think, 4 catches over the past few years. So huge upgrade there on our tight end room. No, that was kind of disappointing. I know across the fan base, everyone was let down, especially after the Patriots signed both the key tight ends that were on the free agent market. Other than that, I feel like we had a pretty solid free agency class, especially with Griffin coming over from the Seahawks to play opposite side of CJ Henderson. CJ kind of flamed out near the end of the year. So having a veteran with as much experience as Griffin has, I think it'll bode well for CJ.
Speaking of veteran,
our
Jaguars got a veteran back.
Hyde?
No, Tyson Alualu.
Oh, God.
Oh, well, I thought you were talking about the premier back that we had, Hyde. He kept that bench really warm last time he was here. It should be interesting, though, with talking about Hyde. He's got a history with Meyer, so we'll see what usage he'll have there. They're talking about trying to keep the mileage low on Robinson. So they're trying to make the running back room a little bit a big strength as far as numbers, running back by committee. But no, Tyson Alualu, he's part of the beefing up on the defensive line for us. We put a lot of money in there, and I know Urban Meyer was really excited about what we brought there. Big guys. He said we got a lot of really big guys there. I know last year it was really hard to watch. It was like an opening gate for anyone who wanted to rush against us. And so shoring that up, I think, will help us a lot on all sides of the defense. Marvin Jones, he was probably our best offensive pickup. He's in his 30s, but I think he still has a lot to play. A lot of I think he had the past 2 years, the only wide receiver that had at least 9 touchdowns. So bringing him alongside with our young wide receiving core, I think it'll be great for our incoming quarterback, who I'm not sure why we haven't signed yet, Trevor Lawrence. But it'll be nice to have him there, especially after losing Keelan Cole and Chris Conley. I know that, they weren't world beaters, but they had experience. So Marvin Jones coming in and replacing those two, I think will be pretty good. Keelan Cole, he got 5 touchdowns last year for us, so that was important to replace those touchdowns there. And Cam Robinson.
Like you said, 9 touchdowns. He's a great red zone threat. So, I mean, that's a good pickup for you guys, especially with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, and we overall have a pretty young team, so having that veteran and that leadership in there, I think will go a long way. And then staying on the offense, Cam Robinson, we franchise tag him. Not a big fan of that, but unfortunately the tackle market wasn't the greatest, and so it was. Also, I know Urban Meyer and the coaches there, they still think he's the bee's knees, and they think he has a high ceiling.
Everybody knows my opinion about that situation.
I haven't seen it. I mean, if you look at these numbers, last year he was credited with 41 blown blocks and 11 quarterback sacks. That's horrible. Cam Robinson, our left tackle, who's going to be protecting our incoming future Hall of Famer. Urban Meyer,
just some coming back.
Urban Meyer, some notes on him. It was interesting his thoughts on free agency. Having been such a successful recruiter in the college ranks, this was his first free agency, and he was really surprised at how it worked. You sign a guy to a multi-million-dollar contract and you don't even see him, and so he wasn't a big fan of how that worked, but that's just how the NFL goes.
I'm sure that COVID has a lot to do with that as well, right? Because for the most part, we heard about players flying out and meeting, and everything's pretty much on Zoom now, right?
Right. Yeah, you have that, but you also have the whole there's multiple teams competing, so you don't want to miss out on them, so you just go ahead and get that contract signed. I mean, those probably aren't going to be for the big free agents. Those are going to be those that kind of provide the depth. So he's doing some really good things. He's brought in coaches that are familiar with a lot of the players around the league, and those are the players that they're actually bringing in, coaches that have familiarities with these players. And so he's being detail oriented, I think, and slow. He's not making those big splash signings that I know the Jaguars fans want to see. But I think, if you look, the Cardinals, they've taken a few years to build around their quarterback. If you look at the Bengals, they went from one horrible year and with their new quarterback, yeah, he did well, but they still didn't have a good year. And then the Bills, there's another example. They brought in their quarterback, and it took them a few years, but look where they're at now. And so I think the Jaguars they're going to do the same thing. We're bringing in our quarterback. If you build smart through the draft and then getting those key pieces through free agency, we can be very competitive again. I think that's what Urban Meyer's doing.
Now, we asked Justin how he felt. We haven't got a chance to ask you how you feel about Urban Meyer signing.
I'm fine with it. I think it's one of those situations where you hope he puts smart people around him, and I think that's what he's doing. I'm not a big fan of the cost that it took. He's getting paid a lot of money for not having coached a down in the NFL. But what did the Panthers do last year? It's almost like a trend now. You're bringing these young guys from the college ranks who've been proven, or some that actually haven't been proven, and you're paying him a lot of money. So I'm fine with it. I think he's making smart moves on his staff, and that's, to me, that's what's important, because it's not the one guy, unless your name's Bill Belichick.
Right.
So that's how I feel about it. But we'll see. As long as he doesn't F up the draft and not draft Trevor Lawrence. If he doesn't draft Trevor Lawrence, I am a free agent fan.
Justin Fields. I feel it.
Is there any risk? Like, is there any concern that he won't get Lawrence?
No. But, just at this time, they still keep throwing that we're doing our research. We got to look at all the players. But from a lot of what he's saying, I'm pretty sure we're leaning towards Trevor Lawrence.
Awesome. I can't wait for him to screw that up. That's going to be great.
And special teams, we re-signed Logan Cook, our punter. For Jaguars, that's a big deal because we've had a lot of bad play at the punter position. That's cost us games in the past, actually. So,
are you talking about like that third round punter that they drafted? Brian Anger. And then the Texans. They used to have pep rallies for the Jaguars, and you could go and meet some of the players and cheerleaders and stuff. And they had a lot of the new picks out there, trying to sell season tickets and all that. So I was going, and I got to Brian Anger, and I was like, no, thank you. Next one. Like, I'm good. Not worth it. Anyway. Well, Matt, thank you for your coverage. Do you have any final thoughts? Questions, concerns, comments?
I'm concerned about the tight end position. It'd be nice that if we could get the tight end out of Florida, but it would take a whole lot of draft capital to be able to move up in the draft to pick him. But we'll see.
You know who else is concerned about the tight end position? Deshaun Watson. But anyway, moving on. Harish. Colts.
So,
Matt didn't like.
Oh yeah.
Matt didn't like my tight end joke.
That's fine.
I mean, it was funny, but it's just like one of those. Like,
We go.
It was a segue. It was a segue joke. Whatever.
Yeah.
We're having another one of those nights where I have to get you guys amped or something.
No, I'm amped. Look, we're doing what we need to do. We're bringing back our own. Hashtag Bring TY Home is trending. And we're not spending any money doing it. We brought back 2 players for less than $10 million. Like, we haven't spent jack shit. And we addressed 2 concerns. We brought back our best corner, which thank God Xavier Rhodes is back, because I would have been concerned if he didn't come back. Marlon Mack we got for fucking pennies. We got it for some ketchup from IHOP. We didn't pay shit for that. And then if TY comes back, I really hope. I mean, I have never had anything against TY, except I don't think he's worth $14 million. So if he's willing to come back for 6, we address 3 needs for less than $10 million, $12 million, $13 million. So I've got no problems there. Left tackle, clearly they're going to address to the draft, which is fine because there's a lot of left tackles in the draft that you can get. And edge rush. Edge rush is deep as well, right? I can name 4 or 5 guys that I'd love to have in the edge that we can address within the first 2 or 3 rounds. One interesting note, we talked about the Titans trading down. Depending on who's available, right? I would not be shocked if Chris Ballard trades down and gets more picks. That's a very Chris Ballard thing to do. He'll trade lower in the first to get more seconds and more thirds. That's where his bread and butter is. He hits on a lot of those 3rd, 4th, 2nd round picks. So I think there's still a lot of options out there. Colts fans have to be patient. We think this is a Super Bowl window. Chris Ballard has said team is not ready for the Super Bowl yet. So he still thinks it's a year away. I don't believe that. I think they are ready. But hey, I'm just a fan on Zoom talking to a fucking Facebook group. So,
and everybody else, because we're on all major platforms. Don't discredit us.
Oh yeah, we're talking to all major platforms. Shout out to us.
And on Twitter. And on YouTube.
And on Twitter. and on YouTube.
You forget that we're much bigger than our little private group on Facebook. Even though
I'm
those
sorry.
Those are the idiots we speak with the most. But anyway,
that's probably why I said it.
I have an idea.
Yeah, no,
I have an idea.
We're signing our own for cheap. That's what we're doing.
I have an idea. Next podcast, every time Harish mentions Chris Ballard, we should take a shot.
Dude, we'd be so wasted.
We'd be wasted. None of us could go to.
Here, remember Clint from 2 weeks ago? Imagine 5 of those.
That'd be great.
I don't know
AFC
what your
South
definition of great is.
AFC
Slogfest.
fan rattle.
That'd be a lot of Trulies for Cherry. A lot of Trulies.
Yeah, at least you told Cherry now he can go stock up.
Right? No, his girlfriend's got to stock up. Remember, he always steals his girlfriend's Trulies.
That's right. His girlfriend has to stock up.
Yeah.
Break up after that, you know?
You're breaking up?
She almost left you for the last bit that you stole from her.
Yeah, she was really upset, man.
She called me. She's like, Sam, why do you let him do this to me? He stole all my Trulies on the show. It's like, my bad.
You can marry the king because you love him so much.
Well, guys, it's that time. Are you ready? Are we ready to talk about this?
Yeah, this is gonna be brutal.
Yeah, Watsongate. I'm gonna kick it off. I'm gonna start off because I'm a woman. So I guess if anybody's gonna cancel me, that's fine. So we had one of our people from AFC South Fan Battle, Chris Royal. He actually went. We got into the press conference the other day, and Chris was available, so he went down there for us. And at first, it was at Tony Busby's office, the Busby Law Firm. I don't know a lot about this. Matt, maybe you could elaborate because I'm in Jacksonville, not Houston. But it seems to be that Tony Busby is kind of like a celebrity lawyer. Is that right?
Like you always say, he's a clout chaser. He ran for mayor and failed miserably, like hardcore, like fall on your face, failed. Like what was that guy? Loader damn rent guy who ran for president. It was kind of like him. It was kind of like him.
The rent's too damn high. That guy.
Yeah, rent's too. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, it was that bad.
So anyway, they started out the press conference kind of strong. Chris, got in there. They were talking about the allegations. Now, prior to this press conference, there's been a lot of question because of the timing of the situation. I myself, even as I'm not a Texans fan, I'm a Jaguars fan. I said, with the first one, I also know our people that listen don't know this, but I own a salon and I have for years. So the first bit that came out, I'm never discredit anybody's, allegations. You always have to wait for everything to come out. But the text message came out that he asked if she was okay massaging the glute area, which is a common question because some people are not comfortable doing that. And then he messaged and said, I'm sorry that you felt uncomfortable. Let me know if you want to work in the future. That wasn't my intention, which is also common knowledge that some men get erections during massages. That's always just kind of a thing. Okay. So I was like, that's not really incriminating. But then the press conference happened. And by that point, it went from 1 to how many 22. Are there now? I think there's 9 that have hired Tony Busby, but it is up to 22 allegations and women talking. But there's been a lot of back and forth stuff where you can't quite get 100%. So Tony Busby will say, I've been talking with Houston Police Department. Houston Police Department's like, we haven't talked to him. Then Tony Busby's like, yes, I have, but I haven't spoken with them directly. I've spoken with this detective. And so there's a lot of open air questions. So this is my whole thing on it, because obviously something has happened, right?
When did it get to 22? I thought it was 16.
Oh, it keeps climbing.
It jumped to 22 after the press conference.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So my biggest deal and issue with it, and the one thing that Chris Royal asked when he went was, my biggest question that somebody else had asked is why now? And somebody had mentioned, they said Deshaun Watson and his team have known about these allegations for over a month, you said. And he said, yes, that's correct. And then Chris Royal said, do the Houston Texans know about it? And he looked dead in his eye and looked angry and said, I don't know what they do or don't know. Now, we do know that this lawyer was Cal McNair's, the owner of the Texans' neighbor. He also is going on saying that he's getting death threats. He's going on saying that he's not a Texans fan. He is an NFL fan, but he's not doing this for whatever reason. But then he posted billboards all over Houston trying to get Johnny Manziel there a few years ago. So it seems like a lot of finger pointing, and my biggest issue with it, and will always be my biggest issue, is the timing, and the finger pointing. Because no matter what, do I believe something happened? Yes. Who is at fault for the timing? We don't know. But I think just as much as Tony Busby is sitting here saying that these women were objectified and they could not come forward due to his celebrity, I also believe that Tony Busby knew that these allegations were happening and waited and used them and their allegations for his own personal. So he is also using his celebrity. There just seems to be a lot of hypocrisy, and I've always hated that. I mean, who's to say what really happened? We'll find out, I guess. But as far as everything is concerned with the timing, that is the biggest thing. And you can't sit here and say that people use people for their, what's the word I'm looking for? People are afraid to come forward because of their celebrity and this, that, and the other thing. When you admitted that you've known about this for a while and you've held on to it and you waited until a perfect opportunity because you were also using your celebrity and using this woman's trauma. And that's the way I feel about it. Don't sit here and just know better. Why didn't you help her out? So I don't know. That's it. Does anybody want to comment? Matt, it's your segment.
Right. I agree with you. Like, I believe the incident happened December 28th of 2020. So, and also, she also made a claim that she went to Busby's office in January. So, you're muted. I can't hear you.
The original one was March of 2020. That would have been right when coronavirus hit. And that one he admitted he had known for a while. The second one
that was the one.
December.
That was the one with the butthole. But the one that you're talking about with the glutes and the text message was in December. Correct. Yeah. And they came in January. So like you said, it is a little like, hey, what's going on? To say that nothing happened, I'm not saying that. But 22 different women have came out. So there's got to be something going on. I mean, yeah, some of them might be out for money or whatever, but 22 cases, all masseuses, there's got to be some truth. Hopefully there's not. I'm praying that it's not, but it's just, it's like a episode of The Young and Restless. It gets crazier and crazier as time goes by.
Yeah, and this is the thing too, right? Like, so when I talk about, once again, like the what they are doing and how they're saying it, right? He had these two women on both sides of him at the press conference, and he had them read out the allegations. First of all, I'd be really upset if I was to say, like, I've had this trauma, all of this has happened to me, and them to make a press conference reading it, because one of them said the woman was forced to give him oral sex. She was so scared that she defecated herself. And they read this out loud. Now, eventually we know that these people's names are going to come out. Everything is public record. Of course, they're protected because it's sexual assault. But if something is to happen and there isn't enough evidence or what have you, and somebody unseals it, I mean, now this is public. So why are we like reading this? Like, at some point, don't make this so public because of who you're representing against, that you're putting these women's stories out there. And especially at the time that you're doing it, when all eyes are on him. And you openly admitted that him and his team have known about this over a month. Now, we know over a month ago was prior to free agency, correct?
Right.
I don't know. Something doesn't smell right.
Free agency was 2 weeks ago.
That's what I'm saying. Over a month ago would have been before free agency. So you waited until the middle of free agency.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the funny part, right? I just don't understand why now. That is the funny part. But this Busby guy sounds like a douche nozzle in himself. The way he speaks and the way he kind of like portrays himself. I've never heard of this guy before. This is literally the first time I've ever even heard of this guy. So he sounds like to be a really popular figure in Houston because he ran for mayor and kind of fell flat on his face.
Well, he had a case about a woman slipping and falling somewhere. It was a big case in Houston that pretty much got him laughed at. But yeah, I agree with you. He's nothing but a clown.
At the same time, though, right? If we're talking 1, 2, 3 women, fine, whatever. But we're talking 22 people. So yeah, something can sound funky from the lawyer side. I think there's some funky shit was on Deshaun's side too.
Yeah,
like you're telling me 22 women, like we're leading into Jerry Sandusky bowl, some shit like that, right? We're talking like Jerry Sandusky early. It started with like 2, 3 kids and turned into like 20, 30, and then that other gymnastics dude. Like this is when you get into the 20s and the 30s. Nah, this isn't to me. This is
I feel like even with the first allegation, even with one, that's extremely serious. However, it's the way it's the timing, and it's the way that this attorney in general is going about it, like talking about.
No, I agree.
How he's a big. I just wish. I wish, if anything, there would be some female lawyer who does not care about the NFL at all in any capacity, who like doesn't even know what a first down is, to come in and say, "I will represent all of you for free."
Well, this is where Texas law goes. Right?
He's loving this. Not because he wants to protect this is just an assumption, but from what I gathered just from looking at his Instagram and watching that press conference and everything that's happened, he's loving this not because he wants to protect these women. He's loving this because it's Deshaun Watson that he's going up against.
Yeah, and I think this is where the grand jury kind of comes into play, right? It's got to go in front of a Texas grand jury by Texas law in order before they can charge it. So it's going. I think they said they were filing it for today. I don't know if they did that or not, but it's got to get filed to the grand jury of Texas this is just to hear it to see if it can even get tried, right? And in court. So
right, you need the beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right,
is what you need.
Because if it's that many, I think it's the reason why it's because if it's that many women and it's actually true, it might be a felony case. And that's why they might say
right. Well, I mean, regardless, I think it originally started as a civil case. So no matter what, they'll have civil.
Right. Some sort of
because there's that line of legalities.
Legality.
Like, is it illegal to ask somebody to touch your penis?
No, is it?
Yeah, if it's in a work environment, if it's this, if it's that, there's so many like different things. Is it illegal to make them do it? Absolutely, but it's like, where does it become illegal for it to be tried criminally? No matter what, they have a civil case. They can sue for, putting them in that situation. But I think that's what they're trying to figure out now is like, what is illegal and what's not illegal? Because every state is different. So I don't know. The saga continues. Supposedly his lawyer has a press conference this week, so we shall see.
Keep an eye on it. I think that's the weird part, right? Now, this is it illegal for him to say, "Hey, touch my penis"? Not technically, right? Is it messed up and kind of weird? Yeah, it is. But no, the law doesn't say you can't tell a girl to touch your penis, right?
But you can, and that's considered sexual harassment in a work environment, exactly, and they were hired.
Right, but that's the difference, right? It's not a legal matter. It's more of like you're kind of a piece of shit for doing this, and it's kind of a working matter, right? There's no law that says you can't do this, but there is there's a sexual harassment, workplace sexual harassment something, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know if this falls under that.
It depends. It depends on how the employer interprets it, right? That's where the difference comes in.
Right. You also run into the issue of solicitation of prostitution. If there was money involved.
Well, so that was another thing we talked about. Would it be soliciting prostitution? Because he never upfront offered them money for sexual favors. It wasn't until he got into the room that he decided to be a piece of crap, right? So is it considered soliciting at that point? It only would be if they did it and he offered them more money. So he was smart in that aspect. I think that he didn't, and also stupid. Like, you're being a snake and you're being sketchy by not straight up saying, like, this is what I want. But he knew better than to put that into writing because he could get in trouble for that. And that's where I think that was going.
Yeah.
Because
at the end of the day, for me, when you get to that many women, there's definitely something wrong on your part. Not just.
Have you seen his girlfriend?
Oh yeah, she's
beautiful.
Great.
It's so confusing.
But I mean, then you get back to Tiger Woods. Have you seen his wife? Like, she was hot too, but he slept with like 18,000 prostitutes as well. So I mean,
I'll say this is my guilty or not guilty. It's leaning like something there. Okay, let's just be real. Let's be intelligent. I will say this though, as a player, don't want to sit out a whole year, not play, and have all the focus be on the investigation and the reporting. All right, you want to play. If I was his PR guy, I would tell him, "You need to play. If it's with the Texans, whoever." You need to play. If you don't,
you know who his agent is, right?
Yeah,
it's the same agent. Same agent, Muggaletta, the same agent that Jalen Ramsey had. So he's going to tell him to have a back problem, or he's going to tell him to sit out and force a trade because that's what they do. That's what David Muggaletta is known from. So force a back problem, or say you need your butt massage or something. Like, I don't know.
Get out. Go down.
Hold on. You're breaking up. I ought to edit this out. All right, go ahead. What were you saying?
If he sits out, all the focus is going to be over this court case. If he plays, and he plays good, all the focus is going to be on his play. I'm just saying, from a PR perspective, he can't just sit out and just have this be over his head.
That's where the conspiracies come in, and everybody conspires, this is fake because of this and that. But like I said, we're not here. We don't want to discredit like these women. Of course, we don't have like names or whatever, but there's all kinds of theories floating around the internet about is this even real, because blah, 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 blah. So we don't want to do that, but that would be what they were saying is like that this happened. The conspiracy says this happened to force him to play, but only time will tell.
But like you said, Sam, this Busby guy is a complete joke. You didn't say that, but let's put the pieces together. That's why 6 of these other women have hired a complete different lawyer.
I'm happy. I like I said, I wish some female lawyer who does not know anything about football.
I believe she is a female. I believe that the lawyer that is helping the case is a female, but it's a pretty big firm with, of course,
Yeah.
But there's also other women that are not going with this firm that also have these allegations.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's where it gets sticky.
They're both big firms that are handling this case. Of course, they're going to be, because it's a hell of a case, but it's a different lawyer in a different firm. Because
I would, like I said, I would hope so, because it just, I don't know.
And
I feel like it should be conflict of interest at that point that you even care about the NFL. Like, if you care about the NFL in any capacity, it should be conflict of interest, and you cannot represent those clients. That's just the way I feel about it.
And if you're a Cal McNair's neighbor and Jack Easterby's altar boy,
yes.
You're not,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's got to be some line of conflict of interest at that point. Because you're not doing it in good faith, in my opinion.
We're also seeing when there's a lot of serial rapists out there, like Harish mentioned, once come out, more to follow. And that's the bad thing about Deshaun Watson. I hope none of this is true. I'm praying for the women's sake, because I mean that's a god awful thing to happen to somebody. So I hope that's wrong. But like I said, with there's so many, there's got to be some truth.
Oh yeah, like I said, I mean, I won't discredit their feelings because working in a salon, trust me, there's men think they can get away with stuff. I literally, if I don't know if they're not somebody's husband or wife or been my client for years, I don't let random men in my salon because I've seen some things. I'm not saying that men don't do these things. I would never discredit them. I'm more or less discrediting the lawyer's reasoning for holding on to this information as long as he has and holding on to this girl's trauma as long as she has. That's the biggest problem I have with the whole situation. But we'll close that down. Matt, give us a quick synopsis of your free agency. Tell us how it's going, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
Not a lot to say. We got a good running back in Philip Lindsay. Kind of excited about that pickup. Hopefully, maybe we cut David Johnson. I doubt we will, but we got two AFC ex-Trash players, Chris Conley and Moncrief. So just passing around, like a used dirty needle. So, I mean, I like some of the moves. Right? Huh?
To be fair about Dante Moncrief, he wasn't horrible with the Colts. He actually had a couple good seasons. He just couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
He actually had some productive years.
And that's what I was telling Sam in the group chat. Conley's not a bad player. He just has he drops the ball a lot.
Yeah.
But I think he's just a product of a great quarterback in Patrick Mahomes when he was in Kansas City and a good scheme. So, I don't know. We'll see.
His first year with the Jags was pretty good.
I was going to say, last year he had 700 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's not bad. Like for a third or fourth receiver? Yeah. As a third or fourth receiver, that's not bad at all.
His last year, though, wasn't very good, but his first year, I was pretty pleased with what he did.
Yep. Yeah. He had a good year in Indy, too, so who knows?
We'll see. I am liking Casario's moves. He's actually trying to make a difference. So, and we got to be positive on that. So,
but I think that's the thing, though, right? There's a difference between making moves and understanding that the roster has to turn around, right? So there's obviously a reason why he's making so many moves. It's because he has to flip the roster, and now with no draft picks and a very, very little salary cap, the only way he can flip the roster is to restructure contracts and
trade people. Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So he's not doing anything special. He's just doing what he needs to do in order to flip the roster.
Well, he's doing it in a smart way. I mean,
that's because he has no other way to do it.
Well, of course, but I mean, there's a lot of teams in the same boat, but they're not doing what he's doing. So I mean, I get what you're saying, but Bill O'Brien destroyed this team. And
for sure.
For what he's doing, what he's got, he's doing it a smart way. He's not making long contracts like Bill O'Brien did. He's doing 1 year. If you had a good year, we'll sign you again. I mean, he's doing it a smart way.
Yep.
Right, so
you know what I imagine?
What's up?
I imagine Bill O'Brien and Doug Marrone right now, like probably holding hands. Probably holding hands, sipping margaritas on the beach, just giggling. Like, man,
in Mexico.
We just lit those teams on fire, but you know what? Got that bread.
We're rich as shit.
And then they're just staring at the sunset together, like best friends, getting retired together, like they did it on purpose.
Well, actually, Bill O'Brien is the offensive coordinator at Alabama, so he's not retired. Nick Saban's going to go save his career. And he'll be back in the NFL in a couple of years. Don't worry about him.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's probably currently still laughing it up with Doug Marrone. Can you let me have my moment?
He's got a job. He can laugh all whatever he wants.
He's a millionaire, so I mean.
Whatever.
I'm just giving Sam a hard time.
Whatever. Anyway.
You
guys are always giving me a hard time.
No, we're not. We're just being honest.
Last week you told me that I always ruin the podcast, Harish. So,
did I really? Me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
I was here.
I thought that was Clint.
No, it's me. It's okay. I told you that's my job, is to ruin it. You might not have said ruin.
Sam, you make the podcast worse. You don't ruin it.
Oh, okay, good. That's my job, to make it worse.
Oh, perfect. See, we're on track.
And to make segues and to cut it off so we stop talking. So, because I'm sure people are tired of hearing us talk at this point. So, anyways, guys, we thank you for tuning in once again. Thursday nights in the AFC South Fan Battle group. It's a private group on Facebook. You can find Chris Jackson. He has his own show there Thursday nights, kind of recapping free agency, talking about major news, all that. You'll find that on Saturday mornings on all major platforms. This episode here that we're currently live will be on all major platforms by tomorrow morning. So you can listen in, shoot us a tweet at AFSFB. That's AFC South Fan Battle. So AFS. Wait, did I say it right? AFCS. AFCSFB. There we go. Find us on Twitter. Shoot us some comments back. Follow us, like us, share us, subscribe to the podcast. And of course, we're on the Brawl Network. So make sure you find the Brawl Network has all of the pro teams. So make sure you find your team's podcast, follow them. And we thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks again to Turron for coming on. And, oh, that rhymed. Hey. And we'll see you guys next week.